the supply demand dynamics are in your favor. So that coupled with positive leverage, your cap rate, your yield is higher
Mhm.
than your interest rates. People that normally wouldn't think about shopping centers, if they want yield, they're thinking about it. Okay. They're thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yonah Weiss, on this journey I like to call a podcast. And we are here together with another amazing guest. We got Andy Wiener out of Houston, Texas. Welcome to the show, Andy. How are you?
Excited to be on, Yonah. Doing great.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm excited as well. We get a lot of guests from all walks of life on this show. The common denominator is always real estate. And I find it fascinating that someone like yourself, who has been in the business for, longer than I imagined personally what business was, to date myself and you a little bit, but in the industry for over 30 years, I think it's pretty fascinating to see someone who's had your experience and to learn and glean some nuggets of information, which I'm sure we will get into in the episode. But without further ado, why don't you give our listeners a brief backstory about where you came from? How did you get into real estate way back when?
Sure. Family business started by my grandfather, Wiener stores, chain of 159 clothing stores based in Houston. I'm sitting in Houston now. I ran the operations of the company. So we were in 3 states. I ran the stores and I ran real estate. Okay. So I got to understand markets and shopping centers. 1997, started my own shopping center investment business, have been doing it for 28 years, built or acquired about 10 million square feet of shopping centers. We currently have assets in 11 states, 3 types: grocery anchored, open air, non-grocery, neighborhood and power centers, and then enclosed malls.
So you got everything. So really
Yeah.
retail has been your
That's
bread and
in my
butter.
blood. I'm a retailer by background.
That's amazing. So ICSC must be like your homecoming.
I've been there 40 years. And we go to multiple ICSCs. It's like, I'm a regular. Okay. So.
Absolutely. Well, and what ended up happening with that? I'm just curious of that Wiener's retail.
So the joke is, Yonah, we did a chapter 29. Okay. That's 2 chapter 11s and then a chapter 7. So we went into 11, came out, went into an 11, did a 7 liquidation. We were competing with Walmart. Okay. And even if we were perfect, we might not have survived Walmart. And then we had some family issues. We had a disagreement over how we should manage inventory, which in retail is your asset. And we were not operating A+, and therefore we didn't survive.
Understood.
And that's a long story, but
Sure.
that's a different story.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. But obviously it gave you a lot of background handling the real estate component of that. I mean, I assume when you say real estate, either obviously you were renting, leasing
We were
space.
leasing. We were primarily leasing. So I was in charge of managing, finding locations, doing the leasing, all lease administration, those kind of things.
Gotcha. Okay. But was there any acquisition aspect at that time?
Not really. We were a leasing entity, basically.
Gotcha.
We were not acquiring our real estate.
Right. I mean, that's usually the case with most kind of shops and things like that. That makes a lot of sense. So how did you decide? What was that kind of spur decision that turned you into, let's buy some centers and let's focus more on that? I'd love to hear that kind of that jump.
So I needed to find an opportunity outside of retail. And my closest friend was a shopping center developer. And so I understood a little bit about the industry, and I thought it would be a natural shift because I understood retail. I understand store metrics. I understand how to think about balance sheets and management systems and inventory, that I could use that skill set to look at the quality and the risk of a tenant. And a shopping center is a collection of tenants and a collection of risk.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a skill set that I had developed before I started this business.
And then it was almost like, I'm sure you had was it some like apprenticeship or
But
or
yeah, it
just
was an
partnership?
apprenticeship, started with Walmart. They were the one who put us out of business, but the first deals I did were Walmart deals, and I got to appreciate Walmart. I think they are an amazing company. Spent a lot of time with them. And then I was trying to do a Walmart deal outside of Houston, a city called Navasota, and a company called Tractor Supply wanted that same site. So I
Mm.
started a relationship with Tractor Supply and did a series of Tractor Supply developments and started realizing that secondary and tertiary markets, smaller towns, we call them hometowns, are a great place to do business. And I shifted my company to do only hometowns, only secondary and tertiary markets. Easier to identify risk.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy the same credit quality at a higher cap rate. You can get TJ Maxx credit at a 9.5 cap or 9.5% yield versus in Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, that's a 7.5%. So I like that risk. And then the other piece to that is that we wanted to always reduce risk is that in a hometown, we are the only ones in the country that we get local investors, local business leaders to be a small part of the equity. You don't need a lot of money, but you want them to come in and be pari passu with me and our other investors because they help reduce risk. They help with incentives,
Mm-hmm.
property taxes, entitlements. They're on the board of the community college and the hospital district so that particularly in the mall space, when you're looking for alternative uses, we get a jump. They're basically deputized leasing agents for alternative uses. So that's one of our special sauces that we get local business leaders to be part of our equity. And that's part of our due diligence. If we can't get a local investor to believe in me and RockStep and that asset and that community, whoa, okay? And so I will go, as part of our due diligence, I will go interview the top 5. I was yesterday in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We're buying a property in Lake Charles. So you are a business owner here in Lake Charles. Tell me about Lake Charles. Are you bullish? We had a hurricane that hit in 2020. Where are we? Are we coming back? Do you believe all of the bullish stories about the LNG terminals that are going to produce 7 to 15,000 jobs? That's the kind of thing, And so we go through those conversations and you get true, honest due diligence opinion, and many of them invest. They want to invest in an institutional asset in their community with somebody who's got that expertise and can bring outside capital.
That's really
And
smart.
so that's what we do around the country, and it's all about reducing risk. And let me couple that with one other
Sure.
thing. We also get community bank debt. So our local investors are on the board of the community bank, and therefore we get non-CMBS, non-insurance company debt, which is those two debts are very inflexible. So a deal we're doing in Lake Charles is a 7% non-recourse loan with a community bank, and there's no prepayment penalties, none. If interest rates go down, it's a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Send me an amendment and move the interest rate to 5 3/4. Now, you don't underwrite that, but that's the flexibility you get.
Right.
That's part of our business model.
Incredible. I think that's obviously, well, not entirely unique. I know a lot of other people doing that, but that is something that is, really a head and shoulders above and beyond what most people think about. And we've had a couple guests on the show, especially in the multifamily space, who do a lot of research and due diligence and partnering with local communities, municipalities and things like that, board of director, council, city council members and things like that, in order to kind of further develop that relationship when they're buying multiple properties within the community, because obviously it's smart. You want to have someone who's boots on the ground, someone who's not going to go up against you, but even more so, someone really, like you said, someone who believes in that local market and is going to put their money where their own investment is also.
I'm going to give you 3 examples of how it helps. New Orleans, Louisiana, we have probably the best group of local business leaders who came in when we bought the Riverwalk outlets from the Howard Hughes Corporation. We were able to get an entitlement from the city, a $1.5 million yearly payment to us, unbudgeted. And my investors went down to city council and the mayor without me. They did it. I could never have done it. In Kansas, we bought a mall where you cannot get signage approved. It's just impossible. We put a signage package together. We email the city manager. We copy our investors, and it's done. In South Dakota, one of our investors is the sheriff. Okay, the sheriff, the guy. And he said, Andy, I'll take care of the property tax renegotiation. That's how it's done. Okay.
Amazing.
And so we're really good at leasing and strategy and property management, but there are risks and opportunities associated with the asset in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so particularly today, incentives are very, very important for bringing new tenants in. And we have been getting incentives across the states. We're working with 2 states on rewriting the rules in their House and Senate. And so you can do that because our investors are supporters of the governor. This is how it works. And they want their community to improve quality of life.
Sure.
By taking an asset that's important and moving it to the next level. And our mission is to make hometown America better. And we do that by bringing capital expertise and this coalition, we call it,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to bear on an asset that affects quality of life.
So it's much, much more than retail, what you're doing. I mean, really, it's fascinating because to me, this is like a grounds up kind of community project in a way.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. Tomorrow, I'm going to a city in Texas where there is a very tough asset that we are going to become the white knight on. And there's a coalition of many local investors who tried to buy the mall, but they're going to invest with me. The city is going to give us serious equity dollars, cash, that they're going to subordinate to a return to our investors. And this coalition where everybody comes out ahead and you get an asset that was a blight that affects quality of life because these cities want to recruit doctors and professionals, et cetera. And if you've got a key asset that looks ugly,
Mm-hmm.
it does change people's perception of that community.
Sure.
Okay. So that's what we do.
Amazing. That is really incredible. Now you've done this, it sounds like multiple times. This process obviously is not something you started. It's taken years to develop the quality of those relationships and the strategic, approach to approach it.
It's got to be coupled. You got to make money. So
Obviously.
like we target a high teens IRR to our investors. And, the shopping center sector is the only sector in US commercial real estate where there's yield. You've got positive leverage. So you're buying, your cap rate is higher than your interest rate. So
Mhm.
we can pay current 8% yields. Okay. Day one. And in the shopping center sector, particularly the mall sector, where you're buying properties at a 12 to 17 cap and levering at 50%, these are cash flow machines.
Yeah.
Okay. So we try to get 30 to 50% of the total return to our investors from cash, not back end loaded. A lot of investments in commercial real estate are back end loaded.
Yeah.
All
Sure.
of the return
Mhm.
comes from the end. Yeah, we're not
Right.
like that.
That's amazing. Now, you've obviously done this quite a bit and been doing this for a while now. And one of the, I guess, misconceptions that has been surrounding the retail world for a long time already, but is even more so now. And I see the smirk on your face already before I even ask the question. It's, retail has been hit and it is real. I mean, obviously, certain aspects of retail have been hit by e-commerce more than others. But I've seen personally, clients of mine that are repurposing empty
Sure.
shopping malls for self-storage or for industrial or e-commerce, things like that. How have you seen, obviously you're successful
Yeah, so
still.
I was going to joke with you and say, remind me, what is Amazon again?
Right.
I've heard about them. I think I got to know what they are. No. So Amazon with COVID basically wiped out the weak guys. Okay. Those that are left have their own robust, effective e-commerce platform and strategy to not only hold market share, okay, but to actually gain market share against Amazon. And these companies have very strong balance sheets, and they're telling Wall Street, hey, we're going to give you 50 stores this year or 125 stores. And there's several dozen of these companies that are growing, guess what? into an inventory of shopping centers that is not growing. Okay. So different than multifamily and industrial, where you've got millions and millions of new feet and hundreds of thousands of new units coming on market. There's nothing new. Okay. So you've got all of these companies that are effective competitors with Amazon growing, and they have to grow into an inventory of shopping centers that is not growing. It's just not growing. So the supply demand dynamics are in your favor. So that, coupled with positive leverage, your cap rate, your yield is higher than your interest rates. People that normally wouldn't think about shopping centers, if they want yield, they're thinking about it. Okay. They're thinking about it.
Makes sense. Fascinating. And what comes to mind when you talk about that, it did blow out a lot of the smaller people. But when you say that there's no new development are you talking about like a specific part of retail? Because obviously, certainly there is.
No. But the amount of new product coming on the market is at historical lows. Why? Construction costs are up by 30%. This is before tariffs, and interest rates went from 5% to 8%. And in general, the sales of retailers have not gone up by that 30 or 40%. So they're not paying that increase in rent to get you to the point where you can justify new construction. Now, it is happening in a small way, and it's certainly happening because of incentives. There's a gap. So incentives, particularly states and jurisdictions that have incentives, you are seeing some new construction, but very, very little. If you own second generation retail, well below replacement costs, it is practically and conceptually a good investment.
Makes sense. But you've had some experience with development yourself, obviously, right?
Yes. We built new. We're redeveloping malls. We own 14 malls, 6 of them that we're demalling. One is led by Target, another one by Costco, 3 by TJ Maxx and Ross, and 5 below, 1 by a hockey arena. Okay. One's going to be a hockey arena. It's under construction. It's opening up for this hockey season. Wow. So there's 3 strategies for malls. One is they work just fine the way they are. Okay. So we bought a mall in Kansas at a 17 cap, levered it at 50%. We pay an 8 pref. We return 20% of the equity year 1. This is year 2. We're going to return 20% of the equity after the pref. These are just cash flow machines. And that's without a refi. Okay. Number 2, you can arbitrage the periphery. We bought a property in South Dakota at a 20 cap. We sold off the ground leases in front at a 6 cap. We sold off an adjacent shopping center that was included in the mall at a 9 cap, returned all of capital. The mall is remaining with 0 basis, throwing off $2.5 million a year. Okay. So that's an example there. And then you can also shrink the amount of square footage and do alternatives, whether it's Target or multifamily or a hockey arena or a hotel or townhomes, because generally the real estate is A+ located and it's an underutilized parking field. Okay. So you have to have 2 things that really you need for this. You have to have very, very, we call it base case underwriting. You've got to assume nothing good's going to happen. Okay. And in that underwriting, you've got to hit a 16, 17 IRR. But then that doesn't include reduction in property taxes. It doesn't include removing pennies at $2 gross per square foot per year and replacing with TJ Maxx at 16. It doesn't include shrinking and getting 300 multifamily units approved by the municipality. All that stuff you can do, but you never underwrite it. Okay. That's only upside. And so that's how you have to think about risk in an asset. Okay. Got to think about risk. Keep on going.
Yeah, I will. I'm very fascinated, and it always fascinates me the name behind a company, because it tells a lot about who you are. A lot of times it tells a lot about the vision originally to what it was all about. And I'm curious, RockStep, I'm sure has meaning to you.
I'm going to give it to you. So RockStep, Yonah, is not a word in the dictionary, but dancers know what it is. So RockStep is a dance move. So I love swing music. This is 50s, 60s, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Peggy Lee, Rosemary Clooney, Sammy Davis Jr. So when you swing dance, You switch direction. You're probably not a swing dancer, Yonah. It's okay.
I've done
Okay.
it. I've done it a couple times, believe it or
Okay.
not.
We won't go there. We won't go there. So when you switch directions on count 7 and 8, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, rock step or ball pivot change.
Yeah.
So we use it as a metaphor. Okay. That we want to be nimble. We want to listen to the music in the industry. And when there's a threat or an opportunity, we want to switch directions. So even though it's not a word in the dictionary, we use it as a verb. Guys, we got this opportunity. Let's rock step. We got a problem here. We got a rock step. Okay. And everybody in our company knows what that word means as a verb. Okay. In addition, I wrote an owner's manual to our company. I wrote 25 rigid rules of behavior you have to live by, rule by rule. And we call those rules
the RockStep rules.
rock steps. Close. You get a half right, Yonah. Okay. And so we have a rock step of the week, and we do this twice a year. We rotate. We're on RockStep 23. Got a little book here. It's online. Be a careful steward of our assets. 10 o'clock. We have about 100 employees. They're all on a phone call at 10 a.m. Monday. What does it mean to be a careful steward of our assets? Somebody writes an essay. They lead a discussion, and then they call randomly on 3 people. Yonah, what does it mean to you, personally and professionally, to be a careful steward of our assets? And this is the language we use. It's how we hire people. Yonah, you're going to come to your interview. What are your favorite rock steps and why? What are your most challenging rock steps and why? And I am emotional about this. I'm passionate about it. I will go to the mat on it. And I expect our employees to live by this. And we're required to treat each other with these rules, how you build trust, how you work through conflict. And we're required to live by these rules with our municipalities, our communities, our investors, our tenants, our professionals. And look, are we perfect? No. Do I get called upon, Andy, you're not living by these rock steps? Yes. I hate when that happens. Okay. But it happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we're dead serious about these. So can I give you my favorite 3?
I would love to hear that.
I don't know if we're running out of time.
No.
So
We're
my favorite 3 are rock step number 1, do the right thing always. We're in the investment business. Investments is a world of gray. You gotta talk it through. What's the right thing to do? Rock step number 3, be punctual. On time is 5 minutes early. And if you're on time, you're late. Okay. Rock step 24, keep family first. If you don't take care of your health, if you don't take care of your family, you can't take care of rock step. My 3 most challenging. Rock step number 4, be a fanatic about response time. I get overwhelmed, Yonah. I can't keep up. Okay. It's a problem. Number 7, listen generously. My wife will tell anybody that I am a poor listener. I interrupt. I'm thinking about what I want to say when I'm working on it. Rock step 25, have fun. My wife will tell you, I take the fun out of fun. Okay. So I'm very serious on the inside. I'm very happy to see it. I'm very happy. My wife on the outside is bubbly, happily laughing. On the inside, she's a nervous wreck. Okay. So we balance each other. We're a good match. She's the best thing ever happened, by the way. That's true. So now you know about the rock steps. Now.
Love it. I'm going to make sure to put a link in our show notes too, so anyone can check out the RockStep, because it's fascinating. These are principles to live by, and these are things that, in my mind, when you're saying them, these are coming, almost directly or straight out of a dozen different, books that I've read over the
big
years.
books.
Yeah,
big
exactly.
Books, okay.
7
the
steps.
Big books, okay.
Exactly. Yeah, these are fundamentals, and the fact that you've incorporated that into your company culture that's paramount. I mean, I think that's really what makes a great company. And the fact that, you've been around for 30 years and probably be around for another 30 or more, I think has a lot to do with those core foundations.
I will tell you, we have a really high professional, very effective team, people from Blackstone and Brookfield and CBL who want to be in a true team environment where there are rules about dealing with conflict, rules about building trust. And it's the language we use. I got to speak straight with you. Rock step number 8, practice A+ness. Rock step number 2, there's a difference, as my son said, there's a difference, Dad, between an A-ness and an A+ness. Okay. And he's joking, he's laughing, all this stuff, but there really is a big difference. Okay. It's an attitude of A+, and on leasing, on property management, on whatever it is, that's our goal. We're not there, by the way. We are not A+. Okay. But our goal is to get there. Okay. Our goal is to get there and everywhere. And so we look at the gap, we figure out how do we close the gap.
Amazing. Well, Andy, I'd love to transition now to what we call the final four. And these are four questions that I like to ask all my guests. First one to you is, what is the worst job that you ever had?
I spent a summer in Israel and I worked on a moshav, actually. It was not a kibbutz. And it was a distant relative of my dad's. And my job for a week was to grab these turkeys, and they put gloves on you and they would claw you, and you'd grab the turkeys and you move them to another room, and it stunk and it hurt and it was simply not fun. That was the worst.
That's, yeah,
Okay.
incredibly challenging. And to top it off, it was probably a volunteer position at
It
that,
was a
right?
volunteer position. Yeah. Okay. I got free food and I got a free bed. Okay.
Right.
That's okay.
A summer job of, yeah, those things never go so well. Fascinating. But I'm sure you learned a few lessons from that, right? Besides
Yeah.
what not to do or what you don't want
Yes.
to do.
Yes.
Second question, what's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
I would tell you it's The Road Less Stupid. It's the name of the book. It's by Cunningham. It's about making sure that you always ask questions and second level and third level questions in every part of your business and your life, so that you can minimize the chance of making stupid. It's called The Road Less Stupid. Phenomenal book.
Fascinating. I don't think we've ever had that mentioned on the show before. Make sure to put that in the show notes as well if anyone wants to check that out. The Road Less Stupid. It sounds fascinating. Sounds amazing. Actually, check it out myself. Third question is going to be, what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Yeah, I'm going to call it a business talent. We are building out a fundraising team. And as an operator, we've been building out an operations team. And I think we've gotten really, really, really good. But building out, we have a new fund, Hometown America. And so we're continuously fundraising. And we have not done that as a skill set. And that skill set, that communication, that strategy, that team is as sophisticated as any other things we've done. And so our goal is to build that team out over the next several years.
Makes sense. It's a key component to any good business, especially when you're creating funds like that. I know a lot of other amazing operators that have had that challenge and have been able to overcome it. Obviously, when you have such a track record as you do and the returns that you have shown as your experience, I'm sure it won't be difficult, but challenging for sure. It's definitely challenging to find the right people to align with your culture and to align with everything that you're doing. So wish you luck with that. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
And the fourth and final question, what does success mean to you?
Well, there's a lot of different successes, but the biggest success to me is that I love my wife. I take care of my wife. She feels loved, and that she feels I am the best partner I could ever be.
Love it. That's
That's it.
great.
Okay. I've got some stuff for the business, but
Sure, of course.
that,
You
I
know,
mean, look, like grow the business, be successful, turn these communities around, turn these properties around, make great living for our employees so that we can always raise salaries and great investments for our investors. But number one, my wife.
love it. That's the best focus you can have, I think. Say a happy wife, a happy life. And
That's exactly
it's
right.
very true. Amazing. Well, Andy, it's been a pleasure really getting to know you, getting to know more about RockStep and all the rock steps that come along with it. And where can our listeners find you or reach out to you if they want to learn more?
So RockStep.com is the place to go. And why don't we put I'll give everybody my mobile number. I don't care. 832-816-4666. Text me, call me, or you can email me, my name, full name, Andy Weiner at RockStep, like step on a rock, RockStep.com. But
Awesome.
if you go to RockStep.com, we have a learning center, Yonah. So our goal is to become the country's leading educator about anything associated with shopping centers, all the terms, the good, the bad, everything. So we've got videos, we've got articles. I love writing articles. I love doing videos. I love talking about success and failure and all this kind of stuff with shopping centers. So my request to your group is, for those of y'all who invest in commercial real estate who've never thought about shopping centers, at least learn more, because you do have positive yield. It's the only place you can get yield in today's world. And the supply demand dynamics are really positive right now. So, but we have a learning center. You go to RockStep.com, look at the top, it says Learning Center.
Yeah.
And we got all these articles and videos, and we're doing more stuff on videos. You can see me dance. I do the rock step. Okay.
You better. Do
the rock step. Okay. So anyway, may the rock step be with you. May the force be with you. May the rock step be with you. Hey, Yonah, it's a thrill. Thank you so much. We just met. Love to continue our conversations down the road.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I learned a tremendous amount and looking forward to as well. And to our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in all the way to the end once again. And remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yonah Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.